Oh, bedtime for you? Okay, good. It is almost bedtime for me. Yeah. Well, I say I'll come on and talk for a few minutes and then probably do some notes and then go into my bed after. Not a problem, Island Breezy. All right. That's fine. It's almost bedtime for me as well. Yeah. It's 9:41. So I sleep already though. So yeah. So I was up last night for a long time for all the persons who who are new here. Spent the entire night pulling down my braids last night. And so I slept throughout the day for a little bit. So, may have energy now. So I'm gonna do my notes after this and then go to bed. But thank you so much for stopping by. Hmm. Oh, what is it that I'm gonna be discussing today? I was going to talk a little bit about, the direct hiring that is being offered by different facilities and recruiting agencies. I see something like after one, you were having fun. Yes, I had a few folks who were from like Kenya, because I think the time in Kenya was after 11 or something like that. Probably. So I had a few persons who were on the live from Kenya, some nurses who had a few questions. Yeah. So we were chit-chatting while I was pulling down my braids, and it went well. Wasn't feeling sleepy, felt like a 12-hour shift because I was up from 7, after 7. Started the live after 7, and I finished this morning at, I finished the live this morning at around 6 o'clock. Yeah, finished the live around 6 o'clock this morning. So, and then I said I was gonna wash my hair, and then I was like, couldn't do it at that time because I was tired. I was feeling so tired, and then I think it was gonna take probably like about 2 hours or 3 hours to wash this hair. So I was like, no, I'm not gonna do that. So I went and sleep, and then I woke up around. Well, I got up probably like around 9 o'clock. I got up, so I didn't even get any sleep because that was probably like 3 hours. I got up around after 9, and then I went and washed my hair. Then I went and walk and trying to dry my hair. And then I was like, all right, then I'll come back. So when I got back home, it was like a little after 12 or probably after 1 after I finished walking. And then I said, all right, I'm gonna lie down. Yeah, so I went and took a nap and then got up around after, so I took a nap around 3 o'clock. And then around after 7, I got up and I was like, all right, I'm gonna try to figure out the remainder of the day. Yeah, so that's how my day went. I'm gonna go wash. I'm gonna wash after I'm finished. And then in the meantime, I'm gonna go ahead and I have about 6 charts that I want to complete. So I'm gonna complete those charts and then go to my bed. So I'm not going to work tomorrow. I've made up my mind as yet. Um, Probably don't go to work tomorrow because I was gonna plan on do my hair. I'm gonna just do the 2 strand, the twist for my hair tomorrow. So kind of plait the root and then twist out at the end. And that is gonna be it. You're full of energy. Yeah, man, I always have energy. All when I'm running on zero. Even when I'm running on zero. I still do have some energy there. All right. And it's not from any caffeine or anything because I don't do caffeine. Yeah, none of my energy is not caffeine related. Yeah, but I'm always, I always have energy. So how your day went and how are you guys doing? And as usual, you can go ahead and ask any question. If you're new here, I'm a nurse. I'm a Jamaican nurse, transitioned to the States here in 2016. I am mostly based in like emergency room. That's my, my background, emergency room nursing. And then I transitioned to becoming a nurse practitioner, working house call services. I do enjoy it some days, to be honest. But majority of the days I do enjoy it. I love the interaction I have with the patients. I love the autonomy that I have and the flexibility that comes with it. Over time, I will love the amount of money that I'll be making. Um, need to talk. Okay, yeah, you can inbox me, Marvin. That's fine. And then from there, hi Joel, how are you doing? Welcome, welcome, welcome. And then from there, I do have my YT page. You can go over there and subscribe. I do share long form contents. My lives that I do on TikTok here, I do share them over by YT. So you can always go and hang out and listen to them. They're pretty long, so usually they're premiering on Sundays. I try to do that. And it's probably premiering for probably like 1, 2 hours, sometimes 3 hours, depending on how long the live is. But I talk a lot about nursing. I talk a lot about, my transition journey from Jamaica. And it's more, like let's say motivational. I'm trying to do more of motivation, education, inspiration, that kind of content. But I do have things regarding lifestyle and travel, not so much like, about my personal life, but things that can make you smile a little bit, have a better idea about certain things, going on a farm, things like that. I do share them. But if you're a nurse, I would love to talk with you regarding your transition journey or just your experience or your upbringing, whatever it is, just something positive to kind of, encourage other persons, bring a little bit of insight into your nursing world or to the nursing world itself. And that's about it. All right. You can always inbox me for anything. I'm pretty transparent when it comes on to, talking about nursing. So inbox me. My number is there. You can always text me, WhatsApp me. I don't want anybody WhatsApping me about anything that is outside of nursing. All right. And that's about it. And go ahead and follow me. Follow me on TikTok here, I think Nursing One. If you haven't followed us yet, go ahead and do so and just check out the content. Do so on YT as well at Think Nursing. And I will follow you once I get a chance. All right. Because sometimes there's a delay with that on on TikTok here. All right, so definitely. Thank you so much, Tommy Braithwaite, for that follow. All right, Joel. Hope all is well. I wanted to know something. How are you? How you got to be NP? Like, where did you study? Okay, that's fine. So I did my bachelor's in Jamaica and then I transitioned here. I had my experience. I just went ahead and applied for my master's program. I did it through Walden University, but everybody is gonna always have their own opinion or their experience is always gonna be different. In as much as probably this was my first online program, I would say it was okay. I was a little bit hesitant initially because I started out, wanting to do in person, but then I was doing traveling and I didn't want it to be a case where it was going to be difficult for me to travel and be showing up for classes. So that's how I did the online program. And it was okay. As I say, you'll hear persons talk about different institutions, what they offer, and their experience with it. It's no different with Walden. Um, so yeah, I did my application. It wasn't bad in terms of the interview. It wasn't anything big. They'll just ask a few questions and then you just submit the paperwork and all and then from there it's more, as I say, it's online, so you're thinking about adult learning, so it's more adult driven. So whatever you put in is what you get out. You will have the classes online, but you have to be just aggressive with your learning. So you have your preceptors there, not your preceptors, but your instructors, your doctors, or your not mentors, your instructors are going to be there that are going to be giving your classes online. And it's just your responsibility to make sure you do them, turn in those assignments. When it comes down to the clinical aspect of it, you have to find your own clinical sites. Some institutions, they provide you with the clinical sites, which is good. Walden do have agreement with other, like, different facilities. And so you can always just, they have a website that you can go on. So depending on your zip code or the state you're in, you can always look that up to see which facility they have affiliations with. And then from there, you can always reach out with them. Not all the time the affiliation that they have still exists, only because, sometimes they go out as nurse practitioner or nurse practitioner students, and you make a bad, impact, or you leave uh yeah, it's a negative um what I was gonna say, the reputation that you leave there, it's not something that persons want to continue with in terms of the institution. And so you find out that some facilities will be like, oh no, we're not working with any more Walden students because of whatever. So you might find that is a problem. And so that is always going to be the biggest challenge. So I would say if you're thinking about them, just go ahead and have places in mind that you can try to get your clinicals done ahead of time and sign up with them. And then from there. All right. Not a problem, Joel. All right. Maddie, Goddess King, TikTok Shack, Tribesman, Jati, thank you so much for tuning in and that comment. All right. Happiness, Happiness Amani. Thank you so much, Nurse Yems. Thank you so much for tuning in. How are you doing? Doing? All right. So, Tikisha, my Greg. Yes, I say I wanted to just kind of talk a little bit about, some information regarding recruiting agencies and the direct hire, because I know last time we were talking about that and that came up. It was a bit of, a bit of information that I got. So let me just come and just talk a little bit about it for persons who are interested in recruiting, or recruitment. All right. So, and oh, let me tell you, I'm gonna try to be a little bit more consistent with my live. So I'll try to do live 7 o'clock in the evenings. I will try to go ahead and post them like a day in advance, but I'm trying to be consistent, like about, Monday, Wednesday, or probably sometimes Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, thereabout. For my live, I'll try to do a 1 hour live. I'm not gonna go just talking, 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 even though it's nice, with all of the folks asking questions and everything. But I try to have different topics each day where we can sit down and just have a really good live, just chit-chatting about different things related to nursing. So you can always come with your questions. If you have a specific topic that you want me to, give an insight on, feel free to go ahead and leave it in my message, DM me, send me messages. All right. And I will respond to them, and I'll try to do a live specifically for that. As I say, I talk a lot about transitioning as a nurse. And I also give real life stories, my experience working as an emergency room nurse or a nurse practitioner. So, all of those, whatever questions you have, feel free to go ahead and ask that. Eventually, I'll try to incorporate, because I always wanted to help other persons with studying. Sometimes we probably want to study and we don't have that company. So definitely I want to kind of have that as a part of my platform as well, where I sit down with persons and we can just have a little chit chat, study together. I like company when I was studying, so I'm sure other persons out there need a little bit of a motivation, a little companion to study. So definitely that is something I'll be doing as well. All right. So feel free to follow me. All right. And then from there. All right. So I said we're gonna just talk about some of the different pathways to recruiting. You have the direct hire, as well as you can do the recruiting agencies. All right. So we're gonna look at the pros and cons with the recruiting agencies that you should keep in mind. One of the pros with the recruiting agency is that, when it comes on to guidance, they're always there throughout the entire process. They help you with the paperwork, they help you with your visas, your exams and relocation. And that is a plus. And as I say, for me as an international nurse transitioning, that was something that my company did, excellent with. Financial support, they also do that. So you're looking at your NCLEX fees or your visa or your immigrant visas, the fees that is associated, airfare, housing, all of those. It might be temporary for housing, but it is something that they also do assist with. Agencies sometimes have, contracts with hospitals. If they have that in place, a lot of times it's a little bit easier for you to get your job or get a job because of the relationship that those agencies have with those facilities in terms of getting nurses placed. And then in terms of supporting, support system, they're readily available because they will help you with with starting the orientation process. So where you have like, your cultural transitioning, like, so for example, the company that I came up with, they would have been aware of different things that are required for general orientation, as well as specific hospitals that they are associated with. So those are some of the pros when it comes on to the recruiting company. The cons with that is that, with contracts and restrictions, a lot of times those are overlooked because, persons always want to sell you, what they want. So a lot of times that is overlooked. Sometimes you might be just locked into a longer contract. It might be 2 years, 3 years, whatever it is. That is something you have to take into consideration because, agencies are going to want to make more money from you. So I would just think that the contracts are just going to be a little bit longer versus if you are with a direct hire, it might be a little bit shorter. Initially the rate might be a little bit lower when you're signing up with a contract and or with your recruiting company. And that is something that you have to take into consideration. Sometimes, you just have to look at it because they are paying for a lot of things. They're assisting you with a lot of things. And so they're making sure that they're getting back their money. So they'll pay you less just because they're covering the cost for a lot of things. Usually with agencies, you don't have that much of a choice or significant choice when it comes on to placement. So that is one thing you have to take into consideration. So even though you probably want to go to California to work, not all the time you will get a chance to go to California or you will go to one of those big cities. It's based on where the availabilities are, that's where they're going to send you. And the other thing is when it comes on to the hidden fees, a lot of times that is not something that is discussed upfront. And so it's usually in the finer print on the paperwork or on the contract. So you just have to look at those. I saw that Avant check hours and not years. Is that true? And do overtime count to those hours? So at the time when I was doing my transition in or with the recruiting company, yes, I was with Avant. They do hours as well as, the years. So depending on which route you want to take, it's up to you. And overtime did count towards it. So that's how I ended up doing like 4 days, 5 days per week, just because every hour counts. You understand? So um that's just it. Charles, welcome, welcome. How are you doing? All right, Renegade, thank you so much for joining. All right, when it comes on to direct hire, meaning, you apply. So most of the time, if you're going to do a direct hire, if you're going to apply directly to a hospital, you'd have already gotten your NCLEX. You have your license in hand and you are ready to get a job. So you will just do your regular applications on those website, the hospital website. And the pros with that is that a lot of times it will be a little bit higher in terms of your pay. All right, because you're directly hired by the hospital. There is no middleman that is associated to take the extra money, just like the agencies. All right. The other thing is that you have more freedom. There is not much of a longer contract. So that is something you have to take into consideration. So, um, yeah, with the hospital that you will be working with, you'll have the freedom with them in comparison to with the agency where it might be a little bit more, different. So the benefits in terms of with the hospitals are going to be a little bit better because with the contracts with the agencies, those are smaller companies. And I think how they look at it, or what I read, was that the larger the institution is, the better in terms of your premium when it comes on to your health insurance. I don't know if that is correct, but that is something you have to take into consideration. But I realized that, a lot of the major hospitals that I've worked with, their insurance plan, their health plans are so much cheaper in comparison to the private insurance that I've gotten through other companies, or while I was doing contracts, when I was doing like travel contracts. All right. Did they have any inner fees? If yes, can you tell us? Another thing is, was the pay good? All right. So, like, is it enough to support a family? So, at the time when I came over, it was 2016. There wasn't any additional hidden fees in the contract for me. Everything was, as is on paper. I had a lawyer review the contract and it was okay. It was a friend of mine whose husband is a lawyer, and he reviewed the paper and it was fine. The rate that I was making at that time, it was I think it was like $26, and that was in 2016. It was enough to, pay all my bills. You understand? Because, and it depends on how you're looking at it. Because if you're the person that is gonna want, the most expensive things, then probably it might not work out for you. But in terms of what you're being paid, it was good enough to cover certain things. I had a friend who had her husband, she had three kids as well, and her rate at the time was the same, like, 26. She asked for extra, an increase, and they gave her extra dollar, which was $27. And I think, over time it does work. As I say, it depends on you budgeting and all. So you just have to make sure you take into consideration that even though they're paying you $27, and as I say, this is in 2016. I don't know what the rates are like now. Even though they probably be paying you $27, you have to just look at it to say you're gonna have to work extra hours, because this is a contract that is gonna be for 2 years, 3 years. You understand? You're getting tons of other things with this $27 that they're paying you. You're looking at the fact that they did, your green card, all of those things, the sponsorship entirely. You didn't spend any money out of pocket. So you just have to look at it to say, okay, then I can work with this for a little bit and then try to work overtime in order to get additional money to, cover certain things that you definitely want to do. So if you're looking at just working 36 hours when you get here because you want the remainder of the time off, probably it's not gonna, be best for you at that time. You have to just think about working extra hours, an extra shift per week, and it might just work. My friend did that and it worked out for her. And as I say, she had three kids. There were two in, one was in, like, daycare, and the other two were in school. And, she made it work. So, yeah. Well, I'm in the same position as a friend. Yeah, as I say, you just have to look at, ways and means of trying to make it work for you. Make it work for you. She did use, there were some different things that I think, like for the insurance, she did look up the chips insurance. That's one for children. You can also look up that to see if it is something that will help, and just make sure you get the most important things, like um medical insurance, all of that. I was looking at working overtime to cut down on how much hours I have to give back faster. Definitely do that, definitely do that. As I say, one thing you should do right now is go ahead and try to see if you can put in your calendar how many days you want to work, calculate the hours to see how fast you can cut down your contract. I finished my contract in, like, a year and a half, just because I never had a child, and I was just like, okay, then I want to be out of this contract in the earliest possible time. And that was just it. So I would say, if you want to cut the contract early and you don't want to be in any issues with them regarding repayment because you cut the contract too early, then definitely just sit down and, calculate the hours and see how it works for you. And if you have somebody who is able to help out with your kids, then definitely it will help as well with making sure that you you do the maximum amount of overtime that you can. Good night, good night, good night, Jenny. TS Music, good night as well. Chicken na. Thank you for the follow. Do direct hire companies process a green card, or is that all at the nurse's cost. I think with the direct hire companies, they process your green card. All right, they're the ones that are doing the sponsorship. So they're the ones that are going to be processing the paperwork and everything for you. All right. I don't know if you've ever applied for any job and they're asking if you're looking for sponsorship, and you probably tick yes, then they will reach out to you. They'll have their department of, persons, their legal department reach out to you regarding all of that. All right, check what the contract allows for. Some contracts don't. So definitely you need to find out, regarding the overtime. Some contracts will not allow you to, with, most of the recruiting companies that you'll come up on, a lot of them are not going to allow you to pick up another job just because you're being sponsored by them. So whatever hours you're going to be working, it's supposed to be through them or with them. So you might not be able to pick up a job at another location, but you're able to do the overtime. Some companies will allow you to do the overtime, but their contract hours do not count towards your actual contract itself, or the hours doesn't count towards your contract hours itself. So you have to make sure that is clear as well. You'll still get the overtime, but they're not going to count the extra hours as. But I know Avant at the time did count, if it's 1 hour, yeah, you mark it off because it's a part of your contract hours. So you had the option of doing that. All right. Hi, Carbon. How are you doing? Yeah, so just make sure you do that and try to cut it down as much as you possibly can. All right. With the direct hire, this face looks familiar. Hi, Matrix. Who are you now? Hmm. I don't know. You went to NCU? I don't know. Um, Peaceful tonight. Oh, okay. Nice, nice, nice. Happy to know that. All right. Another thing with the direct hire in terms of benefits, as I say, the hospitals usually offer like relocation bonuses, sign-on incentives, as well as retirement plans. So that is something you have to take into consideration. And those are very, very important. And in terms of career stability, a lot of times, they feel, because you're doing a long-term contract, they feel as though you have, you know, you'll be able to climb the ladder. Let's just say you'll be able to climb the ladder with them in terms of advancing your career. So that's another thing you can look at. I'm doing good. I'm doing good. Yeah, I'm doing good. So the cons of this is that when it comes down to the direct hire, you might just have a lot of responsibility when you're with those company, because you might have to do your paperwork, your licensing, and you might have to do the immigration processing yourself. As I said, with my company, we did the paperwork and everything. I had to pay for. Well, I never did the paperwork, but I had to pay for the immigration visa and did the application and everything. So you might be responsible for that as well. There are upfront costs. You pay for your exam, visa processing, flights, though some hospital reimbursed or later. So that is something you need to have a conversation with them regarding if they're going to reimburse you for certain things that you spend your money on. All right. There is a longer timeline, because you don't have like that middleman that is pushing for you to get that job or get, the paperwork going. That might be another thing that you have to take into consideration. All right. That the process might be a little bit longer, and you might not have that much of a support system. So with the recruiting agency, you tend to have different departments that are always going to be reaching out to you. With a hospital, it might be a little bit different because you don't have that much persons out there, like, in terms of support that you can always call or text or whatever it is that you need during that time. So that is another thing that you might realize. No agencies is available, so you won't be able to get housing. You don't have probably like the community that you need. So you're basically on your own when you first arrive. So that's just gonna be it. All right. Thank you so much for joining. Hope you guys are having a wonderful day. All right, Marva, Ashton, K Dog, Matrix, Caroline, Linda. All right, Delroy, Mildred, Nadine. Nadine, thank you for liking up the live. and Donnet Porter. Okay, flight attendant TG. All right. So, any questions? Any questions for me? Aminar. Okay. So, if you're thinking about either the direct hire or thank you so much, Nadine, for tuning in. Are you a nurse or just a curious one? Um, okay. So, if you're thinking about either you are on Okay, okay. Well, thank you so much for being a part here. All right. Oh, I remember if you are new, you can also follow me on YT at Think Nursing. All right. It's one word. And you can also follow me here, and I will definitely follow you when I get a chance. All right. Only because, sometimes TikTok kind of delay that. You can't follow too much persons at once. All right. So if you're thinking about, the agency or you're thinking about the direct hire, there's certain things you want to take into consideration. You want to look at the financial benefits, compare them to make sure whichever one is best for you and you go with it, you work with it. All right. Calculate how much you'll be working with each company or you'll be paid with each company. And then from there, you can always, make the best choice. And you also want to take into consideration the deductions because some companies will say they're paying you $5,000, but that is before, and some companies will say we'll pay you $5,000, and that is after all the deductions. So make sure you're looking at all of that. All right. The other thing is that you want to look at your long-term goals. So see which one of them makes sense for you. If you're going to be staying with this company permanently, is it going to be beneficial for you in terms of your goals? Or if you go with the other one, is it going to be the opposite? All right. Are you going to be able to switch specialties if that is something that you're interested in? Or is the case you'll be tied down into the one area when you get there? Or is the case where you'll be able to move to a different state if that is another option that is available. So make sure you're looking at all of those. All right. And as I say, talk about your immigration status. Ask about what kind of visa they're offering you because you can be getting a H-1B visa, which a lot of times you might find persons um be moving from one state to the other, or they'll be moving around in the same state doing short contracts. And you you could be getting and your family member or your husband or your wife might not be able to work because of the limitations that is associated with that visa versus if you have like the EB3, which is the employment based visa. You want to just make sure that is the one you're getting because it's going to allow you to live and work permanently also with your husband or your wife to do the same thing in the States here, so you definitely want to look at that. All right. Plan for your family, find out if you're able to bring your family members, your dependents, who you're able to take with you. All right. And check if the hospital or the agency will support that. So definitely that's something you want to talk about. The other thing is the flexibility that you will have. With agencies, you might have less choice in terms of the shift or even the location that you'll be going. So you want to make sure you take that into consideration to see if you'll have some level of flexibility. You might say, you might not be a night person, but you might get a night shift job. Is it something that they're open to in terms of, finding or advocating for you to see if you could get a day shift or a mid shift, something that is going to be a little bit easier for you? All right. And then, the other thing you want to do is just go ahead and make sure you're networking with other persons. Just like what we're doing here, you find somebody who have been through the process or knows a little bit about the process and just find out information from them so they can actually share with you real life stories to help you during this process. And then the other thing is, I know a lot of times, we are so eager to leave our country, but make sure we're reading the contracts. Don't be like, too quick to sign because sometimes you might be signing and you don't sign the right contract or you don't understand what you're signing just because you didn't read through, and then you're stuck in a contract that is going to be for 3 years. You're miserable, you're not getting enough money, or you're going to a place that you probably don't like. You understand? So try to make sure you don't rush with that. Read your contract properly, and sign accordingly. And if it means that you're going to have somebody else, just review the contract with you or for you, that is something that you definitely want to do in the meantime to make sure you're making the right decision because, it's going to be something that you're tied into for a long time. All right. Hi, Blasi Blasi. Matrix. She's doing good. She's doing good. Orlando Walker, welcome. Culture, White Lilies, Caroline, Angie, Big Daddy, Mama, Mommy, Linda, welcome, welcome, welcome. All right. So basically, those are, little tips I have here regarding that. And regarding both the agency as well as the direct hire. When you're thinking about the direct hire, though, one thing you must do is always go ahead and make sure you're researching the companies to make sure you have a little bit of information regarding the company. And as I say, reviews, you can't go wrong with reviews. A lot of times people do reviews just because they've had a bad experience. It's the same thing with nurses. They will still go ahead and do their reviews on companies. So make sure you're doing that. Find other persons like, international nurses, persons who have been through the program before or have transitioned. If you know somebody in a state, try and reach out with them to see if they've heard about this company. So, they can share a little information regarding what they know or what they've experienced with one or two of these companies. Another thing is, always ask for your relocation packages because, you have some companies that definitely will assist with that. So that is something you want to do. Some companies will give you $30,000, for relocation. Some will go as low as 2,500. Sometimes I choose the ones that are like, probably like 1,500, 2,500, just because when it comes on to the repayment, if I decide to leave ahead of time, not if I'm on one of those, long-term contracts or with those agencies, but if I decide to leave ahead of time, I don't want to be a case where I have $30,000 to pay back or how much they issue during whatever time period. Because sometimes they do it in segments where they do like, half now, half later, and something like that. But I don't want to be a case where I get $15,000 up front and then 1 month, 2 months in, I don't like the job. I feel like I want to move, and then I'm gonna have to, give back $15,000 that probably I already buy a BMW or, a Lamborghini or something. Not saying that $15,000 can buy it, but I spend off the money. You understand? So just make sure you're looking at all of those when you're thinking about that. And as I say, talk about your immigration support. As I say, some hospitals will do have their legal team. They will reach out to you regarding the status for your immigration, your green card, or anything like that. And make sure you're comparing your benefits. And when you talk about your benefits, we're talking about your retirement benefits, your 401k plan, health insurance. Some facilities do go as far as with tuition reimbursement. So, say for example, you're with them for a little while, and you decide to go back to school. You want to upgrade to become, a NP. Or if, say, for example, you're here and you're a CNA, LPN, and you want to advance to RN, then they can assist with that as well. And if you've already done your program in the States here, in terms of like your bachelor's, they will go ahead and pay back for whatever tuition you owe in terms of student loans. So that is something you can always take into consideration. If you're training the, international nurse, let me take that back. If you're an international nurse and you're coming up on those programs, tuition reimbursement wanna, you wanna qualify for that because I think the tuition reimbursement is more for if you're trained in the US here. So my bad on that. But if you decide that you're with them long term, and you're doing your master's program, because most of the time they're sponsoring for your bachelor's. If you're doing your master's program, you can always send in your receipts for your program and they will reimburse you for those. All right. um I'm overseas matrix. Mhm. Hi, Paulette, Latanya, Sowell, welcome. Sexy Brown Eye NP, UCAB, welcome, welcome. Follow Jesus 324, welcome. All right, thank you, Janet, for joining in. And then the other thing, as I say, always go ahead and negotiate your salary. There is no middleman, so try and see if you can negotiate for better shift differentials. And you can also look at like anything else, like your on calls and all, make sure you talk about that. And I always tell people, go ahead and sell yourself in a way where you talk about your skills and everything like that. Let them know how valuable you are. And from there, you ask for more money. Always start from the highest and then you can always go low. All right. But if you see something that is offering, so for example, they're paying $45, start at $50. You understand? And then you can always go down there. But sometimes they'll say, oh, we're paying you $45, you know, not because they're the bigger man. It doesn't mean that you have to accept it. You can always say, what about 47? What about 48? And find out which direction they're going. Because sometimes they'll be able to do that. All right. But if you see where their rates are $45, don't say your starting rate is $45. Go higher. So that way by the time they're finished, definitely they'll pay you $45. All right. Um, And that's that. Sabrina Walker, welcome, welcome. All right. And then one thing I'm gonna say regarding one thing I'm gonna say regarding when you're considering the recruiting agencies, as I say, it's always nice to look at reviews. You want to make sure you're checking their credibility. Make sure it's not a company that is fake. All right. Make sure it's not no company that is going to take your little money or whatever your information and not producing what you're expecting. So make sure you're looking at the credibility of the company. Look for reviews, talk with nurses. You have different forums that you can also look at, platforms such as Facebook, whatever it is. Go and find out information and see who has ever worked with the company, see their reviews, or you can always go ahead and inbox them. Hopefully they'll respond and we'll be able to give you a little bit more insight. And as I say, ask about the cost that is associated because a lot of times, these recruiting companies will tend to advertise free. They'll do everything for you. They'll say, oh, we'll pay for this, we'll pay for that. But make sure that whatever they say is exactly what they're doing. All right. So make sure you look at that in terms of the processing because you don't want it to be a case where oh, the other thing about it is that even though they say free, it's gonna be a part of your deductions. So, for example, your overall pay or whatever it is, you might not be able to see that they're paying you $10,000. So, for example, but at least they'll end up take out whatever they're supposed to be taking, and then they'll pay you 5,000 or whatever it is, and that's how your rates are a little bit lower. All right. Clarify the contract length, and as I say, a lot of times they're around 2 to 3 years, and then just find out from them what happens if you leave early. All right, so the terms of the contract, find out what is your repayment amount and how long you have to go ahead with repayment. And then you want to also talk about placement options. Will they be placing you in rural hospitals or do they have like urban placements for you or opportunities for you? So take that into consideration. And then as well, you always want to talk about support in terms of NCLEX support, housing, all of those things. So definitely find out about it. And one other thing is when it comes on to cultural transitioning, find out if there is going to be any room for that because it's very important that you get at least some information regarding it because you don't want it to become a case when you get here, you're just going to be like shocked from the time of arrival till how long you're going to be here. So definitely find out all of those information because it's very important for you that you have a very smooth transition to the States and while you're doing your hours. You don't want it to be a case where there's so many hiccups along the way and you don't have anybody to talk with sometimes because you don't have a mentor available. All right. Charlie Calbear, thank you so much for the follow. Thank you for tuning in. All right. William Joe Morverine, welcome, welcome. Clive Miller, how are you doing? I don't know what language is that, but hi, how are you doing? Um, Yeah. Well, do you guys have any questions? Um, okay, you're Andrea. Okay. What language is that written in? Arabic. Okay, okay. Thank you for tuning in. Are you here in the States? Okay. All right. So yeah. So basically that's all I'm gonna talk about today for recruiting. Like the recruiting agencies versus the direct hire. No, I'm from Balkan. Actually, Serbia. So random. Okay, okay, okay. All right. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. Yeah. Balkan live streams are so bad I had to escape. Okay, okay, okay. What time is it now where you're at? Because it's 10:26 for me now. Nurse Yams, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are
Oh,
you?
forgot you're in my ears. 5:26 a.m. Okay, okay. So it's almost time to get up. Hmm, yeah, let me take.
Yes, Nurse Yams, are you at work?
No, I'm at home tonight.
Oh, you're off tonight. Okay, okay.
Yeah.
So how your day went?
Yeah, not bad. Chilled, went to church, came back, did a live, as you know.
Mm-hmm. How was
Uh,
it?
it was okay. It was okay. Just getting used to it. Just getting used to the TikTok and how to use the live function and stuff. So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Okay, okay. Yeah, after a while, you'll eventually get used to it. I'd say. Thank you so much, Blessed Kia, for the like. Yeah, I'll eventually kind of get used to it. You just come and just enjoy the company of your viewers, your followers.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah. And
But
that's
I
the
think I need to put up more content first so
yeah,
people know
just
what
take
it's
your
what
time.
I'm about.
Oh, yeah. You just take a little time and do the content and then from
Mm,
there.
yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But Nurse Yams is a nurse in the UK. She's a psych nurse and she's planning on transitioning to the States here. So you can go ahead and support her page as well. All right, she'll be sharing her journey on her page. All right, when you get a chance. Yeah. Okay. So basically, that's that. So I'll come back and I'll talk a little bit more about because what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to do a nursing series, like an international nursing series where I do different topics per day or per live, and in the meantime, we can still ask questions. So we can ask questions regarding anything else, but I will definitely share certain things during this series for, specific topics. Blessed Kia says, I am going to create a new page because my old page was made in Trinidad, so I can't switch region. Okay, okay, I'm sorry to hear.
Hi, bless
Okay,
Kia. How are
he's
you?
following you, Nurse Yams. Okay. So I know I was following you. Okay. Um, yeah. So basically, that's what I'll be doing. So I'll come back and do another live regarding, NCLEX prep and English exams. Explain just a little bit in terms of with the IELTS exam and all. because even though, you know, as I say, a lot of times we're trained with English, the English language, or language in our country is English, but sometimes we still have recruiting companies going ahead to make sure we still do those. So I'll talk about that, as well as a little tips on, like, you know, preparation for NCLEX as a part of this series for our international nurses. Thank you so much, Ripra Print, for the follow. And is it the follow? The roses. Thank you so much. Let me follow you. All right. Thanks for those roses. Appreciate them. All right. But I will definitely be doing that. And as I say, I'll try to come on at 7 o'clock in the evening. I know I'm a little bit late now, but I'll try to come on at 7 o'clock in the evening. By that time, I should be like, you know, I probably should have completed about 4 charts or so. So I can still do the remainder after I'm finished the live each evening. So trying to see if I can balance and make sure I'm consistent with my content. Not a problem, not a problem. Yeah, so that's what I'm going to be doing now. Because some of the content I'll definitely share on my YT page, because I have purses over there. And I definitely want you guys to go over to YT as well and subscribe. Subscribe to my YT page. As I say, if you're coming on late, you know, at least you'll be able to get the full length of the live over there. All right. And I'm going over that side. You understand? Because we don't know what will happen in the future. All right. So that's about it. How long have I been on this live now? Let me see. 53 minutes. Okay. Yeah, so basically that's what I'm gonna be doing. So do we have any other question or anything before I wrap up? Pauline Marie, thank you. Thank you for the gift, Nurse Ems. Yeah. Yeah, and remember to go ahead and just check out my page, all right? And as I say, if you follow me, I'll follow you. And not only that, but if you have really good content and I'm interested, because it's not necessarily like, you know, you follow. Basically, we try to follow everybody that we can, because TikTok is more of a win-win situation. That's how I see it. You know, everybody can win. So even if you don't like my content, you can still save it. You can still favorite, you know, the page or the video. Yeah, do everything at the side. And at least there's one person out there that probably like my content. So it might not be your favorite, or it might not be something that you're interested in, but you're trying to build your brand or your page as well. So, you know, you're supporting me, you're also supporting yourself. So it's not going to hurt to share, like, favorite, and repost. All right. I tell myself that I do that for 5 to 10 persons each day. Even if I don't know them, I'll do it. I'll find one thing or 2 things on their page that talks about their brand or themselves, and I'll repost it. All right. And I realize when I do that, I still get persons coming back to my page, and that's how we build each other. That's how we support each other. And I feel as though that is true engagement. All right. Make sure you watch out the entire video. If you don't, you know, if you're not really 100% interested in everything that they have to say, because you're probably, you know, let's just keep it real, not interested in their content, then definitely go ahead and just let me find one and see here. So this one says, you just go ahead and just, you know, find a video. Let me use mine. Just go ahead and find a video, and let's do this one. And then when you're doing it, this is all you need to do. You press on this thing right down here, speed up the video because you don't have the time to listen to all this yap. And once you're done, you make sure it goes all the way out to the end. You see where it says down there, the video speed has changed? Yeah, so basically just press that until it completes your video. All right. And that's how TikTok or the algorithm understands that you're a true person and you are doing, see, it says that it speeds it up. So you're not really listening, but you're getting the credit for, you know, engaging. Once you're done, you go to the side and you do everything here. You share, you favorite, you leave a comment. It doesn't have to be anything big. You can't say, oh, you probably need to put on some more makeup, or you need to put on a lip gloss or something. Just engage with the video, all right? And then you go ahead and like the video. and you repost it. And that's it. And you're done. You just need to do that for 5 persons on your page. And if you have more time, just do it. I think a lot of us, we tend to scroll through social media or the videos, and we watch the videos and we end up only doing the like. Nothing is wrong with doing it, because I like it. I like the videos and I'm okay with it. But if you already watch the video, you want to get persons to your page, so you already watch it, just go ahead and do those. Not all the time I will leave a comment, but at least I can go ahead and favorite, and I can go ahead and repost it, because even though you might not like it, somebody else out there might like it, and it's just going to come back to your page just the same, with somebody else doing the same thing with you. So just go ahead and share it and do it like that, and you'll realize that you'll build your platform. More persons will definitely come over to your page, just because you are, the algorithm understands you and sees that you're a real person. And that's how you build. All right. So let's not try to be selfish here. All right. Each one reach one. Definitely. Definitely. All right. Super Soup to welcome. Diary of Tash B. Thank you so much for tuning in, or welcome. Craigie, thank you so much for the rose. All right. And where are you from? I'm originally from Jamaica. Repro print. Yeah. All right. And that's it. But as I say, I'm not going to be talking for too long today. All right. I'll probably do that on another weekend. On a weekend, I will do that. And then from there, but as I say, I will be back with more content. So look forward to tomorrow. All right. And then, okay. Me 3. Okay. Nice, nice, nice. So definitely I will be back tomorrow with more content, and come with your questions. You can inbox me and I will try to do that. Check out my page, and as I say, you follow me, me follow you, and that's just it. And then from there, all right, until then, I will see you in the next video, or I'll see you in the next live. All right, Nurse Ems.
Yeah.
All righty. I will
Thank you.
talk with you. Not a problem. All right, later. Bye, everybody.